Okay, what is the other question? Diego Tello asked me, what is your history with anime and series in general? Oh boy, that is oh, okay. What is my history with anime? Okay, my history with anime started with Pokemon, like almost every millennial kid, so every 90s kid, and Pokemon was playing on television and Pokemon was my life. I had Pokemon toys and other stuff. I played their video games. It was literally my life. And the other anime was One Piece. Yeah, One Piece was also playing on television, and I was watching those two, but I didn't know that they were anime at the time. And I didn't know that they were called anime. There was a specific genre about this, so I watched those, but like I said, I wasn't aware that they were anime. But in high school, I was checking one of my favorite websites. They're making subtitles in my native language, and I was always like downloading subtitles from that website to be able to like watch English TV shows and movies, because my English wasn't that good at the time. And I saw an anime section, and in that anime section the newest subtitle was for an anime called Tiger and Bunny, and I found the title cute, like Tiger and Bunny. It looked so cute, and I was like, perhaps I should give this a chance. And there were only like 2 chapters at the time of Tiger and Bunnies, and I started watching it, and I really like it. I mean, it's such a silly show. It's a superhero anime thingy, and it's actually pretty funny. With Tiger and Bunny, my anime journey has started, and I started watching, you know, the biggest animes around, like Death Note and Code Geass. A lot of animes. They're all in my anime list, actually. I can actually check them out. Hold on. Okay, I just logged into my anime list. Let me read the animes that I watched. Axel Word, Air, Akuma no Riddle, Angel Beats, Anohi Mitahana no Nama no Boku wa Mada Hiranai. I think that was the anime that I cried to. And another, Ano Exorcist, Aquarian Evil, Boku wa Tomodachi ga Sukonai, Break Blades, Biosku 5 cm, Kasharn Sins, Clannad After Story, Code Geass, Deadman Wonderlands, again one of my favorites, Death Note, F, A Tale of Melodies and Memories, Elfen Lied, Fairy Tail, again one of my favorites, but I still need to catch up to Fairy Tail. I love Fairy Tail, and I especially love its soundtracks. Full Metal Alchemist, Guilty Crown, Hanasoku Iroha, Hellsing Ultimate, Hibike Euphonium, Hal no Ugoku Shiro, Itazura no Kiss, Kaishoku wa Might-sama, Kami no Mizo Shiru Sekai, Kanon, Kimi ni Todoke, Lovely Complex. It was one of my favorites. Lovely Complex is such a romantic and like lovely anime. Mai Hime, again one of my favorites. Marisama ga Miteru, Mayochiki, Mirai Nikki, Mononoke Hime, Murder Princess, Naruto, Naruto Shippuden, Noragami, Rorihyon no Mago, One Punch Man, Overlord, Real Life, Sasameki Koto, Seitokai Yakuin Domo, Shaman King. This was again one of my favorites when I was a kid. I forgot to mention this was on Nickelodeon or something like that, I think, when I was a kid, Shaman King, but I didn't know that it was anime at the time too, and Shaman King is like definitely one of my favorite animes. Shingeki no Kyojin's first season. No, I think I watched the second season too, yeah. Soul Eater, again one of my favorites. It has amazing soundtracks. Sousei no Aquarion, Strawberry Panic, Suzumiya Harifu no Shouzitsu, I think. Sword Art Online, Sword Art Online 2, Tiger and Bunny, like I said. Toaru Kagaku no Railgun, again one of my favorites. Tower Majutsu no Index, this is from the same series. Toradora, I've seen Toradora many times. It's again a romantic story, it is so cute. Vampire Knight and Vampire Knight Guilty, these are the ones that I entered In this website, like, I've watched a lot of animes, like, I'm not joking, I wasn't joking when I said that. So yeah, these were the animes that I've ever watched. In series in general, like, again, I grew up with Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Inheritance Cycle, Laura series, Percy Jackson and the Olympus. These are the main series that I watched while I was a kid. There was also Star Wars, but I'm not into Star Wars like I'm into Lord of the Rings. When we were kids, we were playing as Lord of the Rings characters in the garden with my friends. It was good times. Oh, and Spider-Man was my favorite superhero. There was a TV show, like 90s show, Spider-Man, and like almost all of the Nickelodeon shows, like Cat Dog, Louie, and Thick, and Spider-Man, and other Marvel shows, like almost all of the Nickelodeon shows, like Cedric wasn't that. Oh, Hey Arnold! Hey Arnold! Like I said, a lot of, like, almost all of the Nickelodeon shows, like SpongeBob SquarePants, and, you know, all that jazz. Okay, another question from Jose DeWitt. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm sorry if I didn't. So, do you plan on watching My Hero Academia? Okay, I love My Hero Academia actually. I've seen the first season of it and I can't wait to watch the other seasons, and I was planning to make reaction videos, but like I said, because of that other stuff that happened with my anime reactions, I'm like, I don't know if I should make it or not, but we'll see, I guess. Like, I love Boku no Hero Academia, and I'm really curious about what's gonna happen to the characters in it. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it, but I don't know if I'm gonna make reactions for it. I'll let you guys know though. Okay, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ asked me, wrench or buffalo sauce? Important question. Yes, Jesus, this is the most important question that I've ever gotten. Both, but I prefer wrench. Okay, so let's move on with the other questions. It is getting close to 3 AM by the way, and my voice is killing because I've been talking for hours in English now. I'm so not used to this. Anyways, okay. So I got a lot of questions as to my native language and where I'm from. I'm gonna read them one by one. Okay, so Timothy asked me, what language do you speak other than English? So besides my native language, I'm also learning German, but I'm not fluent in it. I'm learning it because of my job, mostly because I want to work in a German automotive company later on, and I mean, I want to work there as an engineer, and they usually want us to know German, so yeah, that's why I'm learning German, and it's actually pretty fun, but it is harder than English. To me it is, at least. German is a hard language to learn. Okay, the other one, Jesus Christ, again asked me, where are you from? I love your accent, uwu. Uwu, okay. Well, thank you. I actually try really hard to get rid of my accent, but I guess I can't, but thank you. And then King Neos asked me, you have a very strong accent, where are you from? I know, I mean, people have been telling me that, and I guess people are not familiar with my accent either, so I mean, this is something that I'm like self-cautious about. Like, I hope my accent is not bothering anyone. I mean, I try to like pronounce things in the right way, but I can't get rid of this accent. I mean, it's always there. Another question from John Ronald. John Ronald, I know you too, you always comment my videos, and you asked me this question months ago, and I guess you also guessed. I remember that your last guess was Netherlands, and now you're asking me this again. What country are you from? I can't quite place the accent beyond somewhere in Europe, and I can't quite see your bookshelf well enough to guess. Well, it is kind of weird to imagine someone looking at my bookshelf closely in the screen to understand where I'm from. Actually, it is kind of weird to imagine this. So, and lastly, Samuel. Hi, Autumn. Hi. Autumn is the English translation of my first name, by the way. I use it on the internet, but other than that, you can call me Meerkat too. I don't mind. Hopefully this isn't too personal, you're so sweet. But I was wondering about your nationality. You said that English isn't your first language? Yeah. Isn't it obvious though? Which blew my mind because your pronunciation is on point. I really don't think so. So, where do you live and how you learned to speak English so well? You're so sweet, but like literally the other questions that I got were you have a strong accent, you have an interesting accent, where are you from? But you're like, oh, is it really your first language? I didn't know that. Your pronunciation is great. I mean, thank you, you're so kind, but I have an accent, and I think it is obvious that it is not my first language. At first, I thought that it wasn't obvious. That's why I stated in my first ever YouTube video that I wasn't a native English speaker. I didn't know that I had an accent back then, because I can't hear my accent myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I watch my videos while I'm editing my videos, I can't understand. Like, I'm like, do you have an accent? Literally. I mean, I know sometimes I pronounce things right or mess up sentences like I'm doing right now. But I'm like, oh, do I have an accent? I can't hear it myself. But yeah, I do have an accent. So I got a lot of questions as to where I'm from and where I live, but I personally prefer to not answer to these questions, as well as my real name or whatnot. I like to be anonymous on the internet. I'm just a girl who reacts to videos and like react to animes and cartoons, and that's about it. So yeah, I'm not gonna answer to those questions, but I'm gonna answer to your second question, which is how you learn to speak English so well. Well, fun story. Actually, no, I don't think it's fun. It's gonna be boring like the other part of this video. God, this video is so boring, and I'm really sorry. Like, I'm a boring person. Okay, so I started learning English in elementary school, but I was seeing English classes for 2 hours every week, and they weren't enough. I mean, we got the basic grammar rules like simple present tense, perfect, past tense, future tense, etc. I was always in government schools. In our country, government schools are free, but private schools are, you're going there with a fee, and they're better in giving you language classes, let's say. But I grew up in government school, so I didn't get a good education in English. But ever since I was a kid, I was always curious about video games and TV shows and movies, and they were all in English. After I learned how to read and write, I started watching these TV shows and movies with subtitles. Like, you know, the subtitles were in my native language, and I was always curious as to what these people were saying in these videos. So I was always trying to make connections. Like, I was looking at the subtitle, reading the subtitle, and since I'm reading a lot of books, I was like really fast at reading those subtitles. I still am. So I usually read the subtitle and then focus on what those people are saying and how they're pronouncing things. I'm like, oh, this word in my language is equal to this word, and they're pronouncing it this way. So I actually learned English like that. That's how I learned the pronunciation of words and some specific lines in English that you say in daily life. After I finished high school, I got in a university where you get an English education. To be able to start your major, first you're going to a prep school to, like, you know, get better in English. And to determine your level, you're like taking an exam, and I took that exam. I was in the highest class in those levels, like I was in the highest. Thanks to that class, I had the chance to take another exam after that semester ends, and if I pass that exam, I can like go to my major without studying in the prep school for another semester. I knew that one of my aunts from my dad's side were living in the United States. She was living in Florida, So I talked to my dad and convinced him that if I passed that exam in prep school, I literally begged him for him to send me to my aunt's place so that I can get a education in English. And he agreed, and he said, if you pass the exam, then yes, you can go, but you have to promise me that you're gonna pass the exam, because we need to start with this stuff months ago from the exam. So I had to pass that exam because of the visa stuff. My aunt spoke to some people from a university, she talked with people who worked in the English as a second language program, and everything was done, and then I took the exam and I passed it. So I had like 6-7 months of gap, like free time. So I didn't start my major right ahead, and I went to United States, and I lived with my aunts for like 5 months or so. I was a student there. I was taking English as a second language program in one of the universities in Florida. That was the place that really improved my English, because up until that point I'd never spoke in English much, you know. I mean, of course I was listening and like watching stuff and writing, but speaking is something else. You need to like practice a lot in speaking. You need to learn how to think in a different language. I mean, this is just not for English, this is for any other language. If you want to learn that language well, you need to practice a lot. You need to learn how to think in a different language, which is a hard thing to do. In that place, I made friends from different nationalities. I kept talking in English, and I was like constantly thinking in English, and I even started seeing dreams in English. It was crazy. I mean, it is a different... I mean, just imagine seeing dreams and thinking in a different language. It is so weird. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Like, I'm trying to think in English. I'm not thinking in my native language and then translating them, otherwise I can't speak this fast. So yeah, I've learned how to think in English there because I practiced a lot. I even had a boyfriend there. English wasn't his first language either, so I had a relationship where both sides were speaking in a different language. Like, English wasn't our first language, but we were communicating in English. It was such an interesting experience for me. Like, it was so weird. I had a lot of good memories in the United States. I literally grew up because it is a hard thing to go to a different continent on your own. And I remember when I first got into the airplane, I was going there with Lufthansa, so the people, the hostesses, I think, is that the correct word in English? I don't know. Anyway, they were all German and they were speaking in English, and that woman came and asked me if I wanted anything, like, you know, wine or water or whatever. So I told her, yes, I want water. Okay? And she was like, what? You want what? I'm like, water. And water is how usually the people in my country pronounce the word water. So she didn't understand me, and I was like so nervous. Like, it was my first time speaking, trying to communicating with someone in English. So I was like losing my shit. I'm like, I can't even ask water, and I'm gonna go to a different country. They're gonna ask me stuff in English and whatnot. And after one point she got me. I was like, water, please just give me water. And she got me, and she understood what I was saying. That's how my journey started, and I tried to talk a lot in English, and I tried to do everything English. And even now, all of my electronic devices, my phone, my PC, my social media accounts there, I'm using all of them in English. And like, I started reading English books after that. Like, I opened a Tumblr blog while I was in the United States. Like I said, I was a huge Naruto fan, and I opened a Naruto blog, and I kept reading stuff on Tumblr because I realized that it was improving my English, since I was constantly reading stuff in English, and I was checking the words that I didn't know. I was using an English dictionary. The reason why I wanted to learn English so badly was actually kind of funny. So, like I said, I'm a bookworm, and while I was in middle school, I started reading Percy Jackson and the Olympus series, and I literally read the first 2 books in one day. And then I read the 3rd book. 4th book was published in United States and all over the world, but it didn't came. I mean, they didn't translate it to my native language, so I was like so mad. So I found the publisher's number on the internet and I called them while I was in middle school, and I was like, why aren't you translating the 4th book? I'm waiting. I want to read this. Why aren't you doing it? And they were like, okay, we're gonna translate it, just wait. They didn't take me seriously because I was a kid, those jerks. And they didn't translate it for months, and then they did after the Percy Jackson movie came out. They did it because the series got more popular in my country because of the movie, and I was like, okay, so now they're translating it since it became popular. What a jerk. Like, they translated the first 3 books, but they didn't the other. Like, I was so mad, and I was like, if I knew English, I could have read that 4th book and the 5th, because both of them were published, and I was going crazy because I wasn't able to read them. A couple of years later, Inheritance Cycle's last book came out, and again, it wasn't translated into my native language. It was gonna take time. I mean, they were translating it, but it was gonna take time. And I was like, I'm an impatient person. I really am impatient. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read this shit. And that book is like 900 pages or something. So I found the English book, the PDF version of it, on the internet, and I started reading it, even though my English wasn't great. Like, I was reading 1 page in 1 hour. I kid you not. Like, I was reading 1 page in 1 hour because it was taking me too long to understand what it was saying. I was using Google Translate. I was copy-pasting some of the paragraphs to Google Translate to understand the context of that paragraph, and it was just too much. And while I was doing that, I think I finished the first chapter of the book like that. It was a punishment. They finally translated the book, and I read the whole book in a day. I read a 900 pages book in a day because it was so great. It was my favorite series, and it was the last book of that series, so I literally swallowed the book in 1 day. And I was like, you know what? I hate being dependent because of these publishers. I'm gonna learn English so well so that I can read these books on my own without waiting the publishers and translators. Those were the times where I started watching anime too, and I don't know if you remember, but if you guys remember, but Toaru Kagaku no Railgun. So yeah, that anime is like another series of an anime that I watched, but there wasn't any subtitles in my native language, so I had to watch that anime with English subtitles, and it was so hard for me to understand what they were saying with English subtitles. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna learn English so that I can watch these anime with English subtitles without being dependent on translators in that website that I mentioned, and I'm gonna read these books on my own. I hate being dependent to other people in general, so I was like, I'm gonna learn this shit. That's why I tried so hard to convince my dad to go to United States, and ever since that point, for years, I've been trying to improve my English on my own, if that makes sense. I also love learning new languages, so it is a fun activity for me. Like, I love English, and I love trying to improve myself in English. I mean, I know that I screw up while I'm talking, but I still talk. Like, that's what matters. I mean, if you're the one person you ask me, like, if you're a non-native speaker, please don't give up, okay? Keep talking. Just don't afraid of talking. I have a lot of friends that are so afraid of talking, and that's why they can't improve themselves. Okay? So you need to push yourself. Okay? Even though you screw up, you're gonna screw up while talking. I mean, if you're watching me, I'm sure you notice I screw up while talking, so but you need to keep going. That's how you learn a new language. And like I said, you need to read books and articles or website, whatever. You should read whatever you find in English. And you should check those words, the meaning of them. And you should watch stuff in English and listen stuff in English. The hardest thing for me in English is understanding the song lyrics without looking at the lyrics themselves, because it is so hard to pick the words in songs. So that's the hardest thing that I'm struggling with. Like, I need to listen to them really, really closely to understand the words, and even when I'm doing that, I understand like 90% of the lyrics maybe. So yeah, you need to work a lot. Anyway, so yeah, that's how I learned English. Oh my god, I've been rambling for way too long. I'm sorry.